Hello, lovely people. How are you all doing out there? Our property markets have gone crazy. People are queuing around the block at open homes. They're paying way more than the properties are being listed for. How do you buy property in an insane market? Stay tuned. Now, before the pandemic darkened our doors a year or so ago, a number of property markets around the nation were already experiencing rising market conditions. In fact, I would say that after a softer marketplace for nearly 2 years following the peak of the boom, even Sydney property prices had been strengthening in quite a consistent way. As the year progressed and our nation handled the crisis admirably, the combination of pent-up demand, a number of years of subdued buyer interest, underrepresentation from investor buyers because of lending restrictions, record low interest rates, construction stimulus measures, and a lot more money generally in all of our pockets because we've been nowhere and done nothing, and property prices were starting to reignite. According to CoreLogic, dwelling values are rising at the fastest rate for some 17 years, with more price growth forecast for the next year or two in many, many locations. And we are in an unusual position where this is happening across almost all property markets in Australia. It's very unusual. The last time that happened was, say, early 2000s. The sharply rising property conditions are also due to significant uptick in buyer demand at the same time as property listings being unusually low, as I've reported before. So at the moment, we are regularly being contacted by potential clients who've missed out on buying a property or a number of properties over recent months. They just keep missing out. So sometimes they simply haven't been prepared to offer market price for a property, which is of course a really vital part in a rising market. But of course, it is really difficult to establish what that market value price is in a very fast and active moving property market. And that's a whole other video, to be quite honest with you. Other times, though, it is because the criteria for the new home could just be too narrow, and this obviously drastically reduces your potential options. Many homeowners have their suburb of choice to live in, of course, but when there is far more demand than supply and prices are surging in a seller's market like they are now, then being flexible on location might be needed. And sure, in an ideal world, everyone would be able to buy where they want and what they want. But this market nirvana, if you like, really rarely exists, and certainly doesn't when literally hordes of buyers are competing for the limited number of properties on the market in highly desirable locations across the nation. You might like to consider neighbouring suburbs to your place of choice that would often offer similar attributes but can have a different price point depending on their perceived prestige among buyers. And look, buying into more affordable suburbs that might be right next door to the more exclusive one can actually make a more sound property investment. It makes more investment sense, if you like, and more generally with the potential for excellent capital growth. Everyone will have different needs and wishes and wants when it comes to an actual property type. Land size or the configuration of the house is going to depend on the size of your family and who you're buying this for. So the same flexible mindset as with the area or suburb choice could be adopted where possible. Some home buyers stick really rigidly to buying a lifestyle property, but are forever missing out because they're just not prepared to pay what is needed to secure that type of in-demand property. You're not keeping up with the market. And I'm not saying just throw hundreds of thousands of dollars more at it than you need to, but you do need to know what the property is worth when it comes to recent sales, and as important, know what the property is worth to you. No one else can tell you that. How many more weeks and months are you prepared to spend looking for your dream home? So the same can be said for people who are really stubborn and insistent on buying this type of house in a particular location when they can't actually afford to do that. But they might have the funds to buy a premium unit in the same location, but would really rather miss out entirely than rain on the house ownership dreams. Another element that buyers could maybe have flexibility on is when it comes to the number of bedrooms or bathrooms a potential home should have. It's really a matter of thinking about the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. There's a really big difference, right? So while I would never ever suggest purchasing a property that is fundamentally won't suit your needs, let's put it that way, there's no point in that because you'll just be unhappy. But further down the track, there could perhaps be ways to change the internal features of a property as long as it has the structural specifications or the equivalent to do so at some point in the future. So think really hard about what you can and what you cannot compromise on in terms of area and in terms of the actual property itself, the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. Know the market that you're trying to buy into really, really well in terms of demand, availability, and pricing. Do your research. Think that with property prices rising so quickly, buyers who are not flexible enough might wind up missing out on this market cycle altogether. Please don't forget to just subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below, hit that like button. I really, really appreciate your support, and I will see you again really, really soon. Bye.